Hey, Bruce. Chris Chapman, Fox Sports Las Vegas. On a night you scored 6 goals, the leaders in the locker room were talking about how there's certain things in the game that needs to be shored up, and penalty kill was the one that they focused on. So what kind of message does that send to other guys in the room that, hey, we scored 6 goals, but we still need to be better in certain areas?
Well, I think our guys know what we are, how we play. They're an astute group, so there's always things I feel like our team wants to get better at. As a coach, you love to hear that because that's how coaches operate. They always look at the good in the game, but okay, what do we need to fix, right? And it's usually something. That's just pro sports, so good for them for recognizing that. Detroit, I'll say this is, I don't know, they're in the top, who knows, after 3, 2, 1, I think we're up there in Winnipeg and whatever order it is, so they're a good group, so you can't beat yourself up, but there's certain things you probably have to do better against a group like that that's going to capitalize, just like their penalty kill against us. And when we're humming, there's certain things you just got to bear down on. And what are those? Well, they might change from team to team, but tonight we weren't able to win a puck battle a couple of times to get the clear. So that's the first thing you always want to do is keep a good power play out of your end or in your end as least amount as possible, right? That's face-offs, clears, and we weren't able to do that well enough tonight, and they took advantage. So good for the guys to acknowledge that. And it's a hard thing to practice, the penalty kill. It really is, because you got to simulate what other teams are doing all the time. So it's a video, it's a teaching, it's reminders, and hopefully it translates onto the ice and a good game plan. So we have to look at that as well.
How important, even though it didn't turn out to be the winning goal, but Nick Waugh's goal at the end of the first period, because you think you score and you're up 2, and then it's taken off the board. Detroit seemed to have a lot of momentum immediately after that, and then you kind of took it right away from them heading into the room.
Yeah, those are tough goals to give up, so they're great to have for us, especially them on the road. If they're probably thinking if we can get to the intermission 2-1 when one comes off the board, that really it was a really close call, and so it probably was a little deflating for them, especially it's a 5-on-5 goal, right? And that's not the strength of their game. So now we're playing to our strength even more. So good for the guys. It was one of those deals. We just put 2 centermen out as a right-hand draw, and Nick ends up scoring. So good for him, because that is kind of a crappy. You're out there for a D-zone draw, so those are not the optimal times to be. You want the O-zone draws. Now he ends up scoring anyway. So credit to him, and probably good for him, because he deserves a break like that every once in a while, and he's a good soldier for the team. So yeah, it was a timely goal, and I felt we'd got to our game after the first 10 minutes, even though the goal came off the board. It was how we wanted to play, get the puck as deep as possible in their zone, force them to sort out coverages, hang on to it, use our size, and get to the net. And so we figured if we kept with that, even though it came off the board, we would be okay, and that's the way it turned out.
Danny, then Ashley.
Hey, Bruce. Danny Webster, Las Vegas Review-Journal. You've talked before about teams kind of focusing on Tomas and the bumper, how they've been kind of taking that away. Both of his power play goals, both a result of him kind of getting away from the bumper, cutting into the middle. Is that more so just by coincidence, or is that just kind of something that just worked out with Tomas?
No, that's by design. I mean, you got to move him around if they're going to take him away. He's one of our best options. But they gave Stoney all kinds of time in the drop-off. We saw that in videos. Okay, so what plays does he have? Well, the first one he has, he can wipe across the front of the net, and he did that the first power play. And, they made a great save, and Pav got the rebound and shot it right into another great save, whether he saw it or not. So we knew that play would be there. So at the end of the day, they were overplaying Pav a little bit, so he moved out of the way a little, and Thomas right down, so we have 2 net front presence instead of a bumper and a net front, and it happened to work. We made the play. But those are plays you got to make. Sometimes they'll overplay Stoney, and Jack will slip it into Hurdle without it going down to Stoney. So depending on where sticks are and people line up, we still want to go to our plays if we can help it. So good job in the pre-scout, and then good job for us executing it, and the guys seeing what was available. Because, we've done that to a few teams, right, where Thomas goes backdoor, and sometimes Pav will slide even higher depending on what they do with their backside guys. So that's just sort of stuff that you pick up when, in the morning when you're watching them, or the day before, whenever it happens to be, and try to implement it and see if it works.
What went into the decision to switch your D pairings back to what we saw early in the year?
I thought if maybe one pair wasn't as crisp as they were, so we'll just move people around. See if that gets us going a little bit. You know, we do that up front. I usually leave that to Johnny, but tonight it's just something I saw I didn't like, that's all. Coach being cranky, salty. So let's see if, you know, something else works a little better. Sometimes it just gets people's attention and, you know, all of a sudden they're like, well, what's going on? And then they just start worrying about their own game, which is the most important thing. Worry about your own game, play your game. We got a lot of good players in that room. So that was it.
Hey Bruce, Gary Lawless. Since you got here, you've talked to us about your team wanting to build the game as the season, build your game as the season goes on. 13 to go. Where are you in? Where do you think you are in terms of building your game?
Well, I think it's been good. Contrary to maybe what our record would indicate, I think our overall game has been good. You know, coming out of whatever, I'll say January 1st, we just didn't get the results every night. We weren't scoring in some of those 2-1 games that I thought we were playing the right way. The puck wasn't going in. Little hiccup last week in the road. We've already addressed that. We had a bad one in Detroit. You know, let one get away in Buffalo, but you know, I think we're playing pretty good hockey for the most part. We had a tough one against LA here, but we battled right back and we just ran out of time. I think we could have got points. So I'm looking at that part of it. I think has been pretty good. Now all of a sudden it goes in on Thursday, it goes in tonight. So maybe the goals will start coming again at home like they did earlier this year. There's always a balance of that, but so I'm pleased that, to the comment earlier, we want to work on things that we need to get better at. So there's a good example of our team knowing that, hey, we're getting there, but there's things to go. We're getting William Karlsson back in the mix, you know, get him up to speed. Theo's right around the corner, so, you know, that'll help us build our game as well, get those guys in there, difference makers. So I think Hilly's been pretty consistent night in, night out, so that matters as well. You know, you want your goaltending to be sharp, give you a chance, so I like the way it's trending. But there's always a few things, and we'll, you know, grind those out for 13 games, see where it leads us.
Last two will go Alan, then Paul.
Hi, Bruce. You've done a
Hi,
great...
Alan. How are you?
Good.
Good.
You've done a pretty good job piling up the wins at home. On the road, not so much. I think you're like 2 games above 500 on the road. I'm just wondering, do you have any explanation for the disparity? And is it a factor that you think has to be addressed before the playoffs?
I will say this, I think on the road, our record, when we had a number of players out of the lineup, we didn't have the depth. So you could be at a disadvantage of the line change situations from time to time. And I think there would have been times that may have worked against us. I think there's some games that we've let get away from us in the road, much more than at home, even in those overtime or loss sort of, whatever the loser point, whatever you want to call it, that we didn't turn into wins. But I still think we've played better at home. And I think our road record should be better than it is because of those couple things I mentioned, but we have been better at home. We've been able to turn a 1-goal lead into a 2-goal lead and a 3-goal, it seems, in this building. On the road, we haven't been able to extend leads as well. And that's why we haven't been able to separate ourselves a little bit. That's what I think has happened. I don't think it's anything more than that. I don't think it's our players are, you know, not good road players. They've proven they are. It's just that's the way it's worked out this year.
Hi, Bruce. Paulo Los Santos, NHL.com. Between Pavel and Tomas, you have 60 goals. Like, how is that pair working, especially since you put them together overall?
Very well. Yeah, very well. Yeah, I would say very well. Sorry, I cut you off.
What does that say about that pair?
Well, they found chemistry together. We didn't know going into the year where I thought Pav might end up playing with Carly. That last year they had with Smitty, or 2 years ago, when Pav had a run, someone was injured, so we ended up putting that together, and I liked the way it looked. So we thought coming into the year that might be a pair, Carly and Pav, we'll see who would fit on the other side, or which wing Pav would even play, because he plays both. He's been able to handle the offside. For a young guy, that's another thing that's not talked about enough. It's not easy to catch a lot of passes through the neutral zone on a breakout on your backhand and be able to corral pucks. That's where his strength is I mean, I watched, I think it was the third period. It's a kind of a nothing play, but it's a breakout. In front of our bench, he's handling it, he's weaving through people. I don't know if he does that 2 years ago or last year, and that's playoff hockey where you need to be hard and heavy on your stick, and he's just done a really good job with that. And so that is what Thomas does now naturally and been doing in the league for a long time. So I think the reason they're hard guys on the puck, so they buy a little bit more time for each other to get open, and I think they're both willing to shoot. It's not too often you see two guys in a line that, does Thomas have more goals and assists now? Like, you don't always see that, right? Quick question for anybody out there. Does anybody know because I think the answer might be 30 and 28. So he has more, and so does Pav, right? So that, you think, well, who's passing them the puck, right? It works. It works. So good for them. Satter's come in and been a nice addition. He's made some plays for them, but he's only been here, whatever it is, a month. So they're just read off each other well and know that the puck's going to the net. Usually sooner or later when they get it. So it's worked out well. And that sort of say, well, do you need to lend one of those scores to a more of an overpassing line? Well, we're not going to mess with that right now, but that's something that you'd always put in the back of your head. But other than that, you'd have to ask them if they see something out there and they communicate. Don't forget, you got a Russian and a Czech, so they might be speaking a language I don't understand on the bench, and that could be as simple as that, what they see going on. And I'm all for it. Whatever's you're doing, go right ahead, because I'm not interrupting their flow. The only thing I'm reminding them is it's a 200-foot game, manage the puck, manage your shift length, and be careful getting three guys below the goal line, because there was a couple times tonight they got stuck, and DeBrincat line comes down the ice, and they're a real good line rush line. Not on the goal. That was, there was a middle of a line change, but a couple times in the second period. And that's most of the conversation I've had with those two guys, is be mindful of your spacing in the O-zone, because you can get burnt in those second periods. And they've taken it to heart, and they've been excellent for us.